Hello, 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 and welcome to the big walkthrough landscape edition. I am Richard. You've seen me in the last one with Pete Burford, and we are here to discuss landscape. So before we get started, let's just kind of make sure we know what the concept is here. So we have an equipment showcase where we'll show you all the equipment that we use for landscape photography. We'll then go through the settings with Ben to then get the most out of the camera itself. And then we'll go to Ben's images and we'll get some amazing inspiration to go from there. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be impressed with some of the photos we've got for you today. So before I start, we do have a little bit of support today. Back from last time. Hello, Fanny. How are we?
Hello, Richard. I'm in Germany, and today I'm in Hamburg, so I'm happy to join you.
Nice. And to be fair, to admit, you literally got here about 10 minutes ago. So well done for getting on board. Well done indeed. So Fanny, you're here to obviously look after the comments for me. You're also here to obviously kind of maybe answer a few technical details where I still may not know and might learn that myself. So we'll get through it together, I'm sure. I have a question for you, Fanny, before we really get started. How much do you know about landscape?
Yes, I think I know some things. I think I can help or support you. Questions. I prefer to do photos of people, but I like to be in landscapes and enjoy the landscapes.
Good. Okay. Well, hopefully, you never know. You might get something out of this as well. You never know. So the concept for this is that everyone should be able to learn something from this show, whether you're a professional or a beginner. If you literally just picked up your camera and you're wondering, how do I take a picture of a landscape and make it worthwhile? Then hopefully this is for you. And if you are just after some inspiration as we go through, hopefully, you never know, you might learn a few things and we'll kind of get to the inspiration and some images, and hopefully you'll all then want to go out and take some pictures with your OM kit. So before we get really started, let's bring on this. There we go. So as always, we do a poll. If you could obviously put it into the comments, whether you're an OM user and whether you take landscapes. I'm really interested to know where you're from, if you're taking landscapes. I also want to know some locations if you want to throw them out there. So by all means, get them in the comments. It'd be really interesting to find out just who's shooting and where and what those landscapes look like as well. So, and we're going to move straight into it. So this guest tonight, I managed to have a conversation with for the first time with him yesterday. And I was very, very overwhelmed and just amazing how amazing he is. He is a man that is connected to nature in such a wonderful way through his love of adventure and exploration. For me, he seems to have traveled all over the world and climbed so many mountains. And he's got so many stories. And I believe he's pretty much been to every location that we could possibly ever dream about going to. So let's bring him on, the lovely Ben. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Yourself?
Good, thank you very much. I'm very, very good.
Thank you for the kind words.
It's all right. Thank you for coming onto the show and embracing the concept we have and bringing your amazing images and your concept of photography and what you do in terms of your hiking ability, and coming to show that off and tell us how you do it, and not as well as everything else. So so I want to know first, Ben, before we get really started, how has 2026 been so far?
2026 has been really good. Had my daughter in 2025, just at the end of 2025. So she's 4 months old, and we're traveling with her now in the van So yeah, we're on the way to the Dolomites, which will be a big highlight with our 4-month-old daughter. She's not here in the van at the moment. My partner and daughter are just walking outside while I'm on the live stream.
Brilliant. So you're traveling with your 4-month-old, you said, literally
Yes,
in the van.
in the van.
That's an amazing feat for most people, and I'm sure everyone is
Yes,
astounding how you
she's
can do
super
that.
chill.
Good. So what are you going to do whilst you're there? As we were talking about earlier, you're there for a little bit of time, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be there for a month or two, and just like Fanny said, I'm just going to enjoy the landscape, just being and immerse myself, read about it, learn the geology of the mountains, and yeah, bring my camera with me and photograph it if it happens with a beautiful light.
Makes sense. And so what other stuff you've been doing this year? Obviously, with a 4-month-old, it must be hard to kind of get out there traveling all the time, I imagine. But have you done any adventures kind of throughout 2026 so far? You've been up
Yes,
any?
the January, February was a bit slow. Obviously, it was something new to learn, to having a baby in the van as well. But
Yeah.
she's so super chill that it's a quite good way to travel with the baby. And my partner is incredible mum. She looks after him while I go for hiking or for some trips. I've done some trips in England already, some trips in Scotland, some work, and yeah, now it's just our big travel trip into the Dolomites.
Yeah,
Which,
can't go wrong.
we're really excited for it.
I imagine you really are. I wish I could follow you and do the same thing, to be honest.
A live stream on the Dolomites.
So how did you get into photography? I'm sure there's people that want to know how did you get into this?
So this might have been now 10 years ago. I was a videographer. I was really into making films for natural reserves, national parks, about rewilding and those kind of things. And yeah, at some point I was just like, I want to translate something within a still image rather than, video with sound, but just something that's so still and timeless. And I wanted to capture that into a photograph. And that got me curious to get my first camera and really explore it and, learn how to see the landscape, the light, how to read it, how, it's like puzzle pieces coming together that you have to puzzle.
Yeah. And may I ask, what was your first camera? Was it an OM or Olympus back in the day?
Oh, actually, no, it was a Canon with
Okay.
heavy lenses.
And
for
how
filmmaking,
was
you had
that?
to get some heavy lenses.
Yeah. And how was that with your back and hiking back in those days?
Well, it was heavy, definitely. The lenses were massive, and the tripod. Obviously, I had to take a tripod with me to create some images because the handheld and stabilization wasn't that good back in the days. So yeah, tripods was always a bit of a pain to carry, to be honest. You'll be hiking 4 to 8 days. The longest trips was 16 days, and then you carry a 2 to 3 kilogram tripod, which is a bit heavy towards the end.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to look into a camera where I could get rid of the tripod completely, whether it's low light or sunset, sunrise, and that's where I got to OMSYSTEM. I was really diving deep into the system of what I could do and what the needs were for me hiking, and I saved about, I would say, 4 to 5 kilograms on my hikes.
And that's really a lot when you're obviously walking those sort of level of the distances and the days you're traveling as well. That's quite
you can bring a lot more other kit with you as well, safety kit, also more food if needed for longer trips. So that made a massive difference.
What was that, Fanny? What did you say? Sorry.
And the baby.
And you can also carry a baby.
I know, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The baby is 6 kilograms now, so that's going to go back onto the backpack.
Brilliant. So very quickly then, what does nature mean to you? Where does your connection come from for that?
Oh, nature is everything to me. Like as a young child, I was always out on the beaches with my family, and they always let me play outside, and I was amazed by how the sand was just sweeping across the beach, and the dunes were moving, and that was my toys back in the days. I was just running after the sand, and yes, I have a really big memory for that. And yeah, when I turned 18, I moved to New Zealand because I really wanted to explore around and learn more about the geology of New Zealand back in the time. And that's when I did some, films with nature reserves, about rewilding, and it really got me into thinking deeper about what the landscape is. And it's not just there to look pretty; it does a lot more than looking pretty.
Yeah. And I've got one last question before we really get started then. So what is your favorite mountain range?
That would be the Moors in the Scottish Highlands. That's a beautiful mountain range. It just feels like a big adventure when you go in there. Like there's so many different types of rock, a different type of mountains, and the geology line changes within the mountains. So you see completely different ones while you're hiking. And it's also one of my first mountain ranges I explored when I moved to the Scottish Highlands. So that's a big part of it. But that's where geology really came to life, and to find out how all these mountains are. Like, it's incredible.
Lovely, lovely. I haven't had a chance to go myself, but I'm sure me and you will work together to make that
I'll
happen.
take you out.
Yeah. Okay, and I just want to quickly say, guys, if you have any questions, then please get them in. Fanny will look after them for you. We'll try and get some through as we go through the slides, but we do have a dedicated question and answer time later on as well. So by all means, make sure you get them in early so we're aware of them. Okay, so let's go straight into the equipment showcase then. Ben, what camera and lens are you using these days then?
I use two bodies. My main primary body would be OM5 Mark II with the 8-25 f4 Pro and the 40-150 f4 Pro. Those two lenses combined are like super light and compact together. And yeah, they're just incredible. I love how compact they are, and saving the weight in the backpack is amazing. And the OM5 Mark II, it's just an incredible body. So lightweight, small. The hand grip is amazing. And the best thing of all is the in-body stabilization. That means I don't need to use a tripod. The tripod is out.
I feel this urge to say that you're a tripod hater. I'm getting that impression. Is that true?
I don't hate it. Like, I see the benefits of it, but not in the mountains for me. Especially saving the weight, like 4 to 5 kilograms is a massive difference in when you do long distance trails.
So, and what would you say? I know you've used other bits as well. So, what would you say your favorite combination is together?
Lenses wise,
lens with body, yeah.
Definitely the OM5 with the 8-25 and 140.
Okay.
There's also the 7-14, which I use for the 7-14 to f2.8, which I used for a while. But then I realized I need another lens in between the range of 14 to 40, which is quite a big difference. So then I swapped over to 8-25, and there's also no 8-25 millimeter range anywhere else in any system, which is incredible. You go like super wide landscapes to like closer up to 25 mil, 50 millimeter full frame equivalent.
Yeah. Most other brands are obviously 16-35s and that sort of thing, aren't they? So
yeah, you lose the range, and honestly, once you use the lens, it never comes off your camera. It never comes off.
Yeah, I gotta say, obviously, I do a bit of landscape myself. Obviously, not to your scale, by all shapes or means. And I've used the 7-14, but I've moved away for the 8-25 for that exact same reason. So yeah, and
Can I
go
just ask one thing, because there's someone asking for list his equip, and what is the second camera you use? You said the OM5 Mark II, and what was the other?
The OM5 Mark III I do use as well.
Is that the OM3? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, OM3. New product. I don't know. No, OM3.
We don't have a Mark III, people, right?
Maybe
Yeah,
an
the
older camera. That's okay. Okay, thank you.
No,
Still,
it's
I
the
can write it in the comments. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the OM3 because I do like the live GND in the camera, which can be incredible for landscape.
Yeah, which you'll show us a live demonstration of
I
later,
will.
I'm sure.
I will.
Yeah. So, if you could have any dream lens, then Ben, what would it be?
Ooh, I think that would actually be an 8 to 50 millimeters. 8
Yeah.
to 50. So from wide to 16 millimeters full frame credit to 100. That would be an incredible lens.
Okay. And where would you want the aperture to be on that? Take in mind, you've got to make it lightweight for you, right? So
Yeah, f4. F4 is perfect for landscapes. I don't need any lower aperture than that because I don't shoot 2.8 for landscapes in general because I want everything to be sharp.
yeah. No, that's a good answer. It'd be a nice range, that, wouldn't it?
It'd be a really good range.
Yeah, maybe one day. It's not happening, I can tell you that, but you know, maybe one day. Fanny, I have a question for you then. Perfect landscape kit. What would be your perfect ideal landscape kit? I'm curious. It was a hard thought. There's lots of thinking going here. Oh, have we? Well, we might be losing you a little bit. Yeah, we've lost sound with you, but we'll come back to the question.
He's under
We'll
NDA. Can't talk about that lens, by the way.
Yeah. That's what it is. Fine. Okay, so today we're going to look at the OM5 Mark II with a mix of wide and telephoto lenses. And why the OM5 for this? It's kind of, as Ben said, really, it's down to the lightweight. It's down to the durability, the weatherproofing on it, and it's got some amazing features. So we're going to have a deeper look into the camera, and then we'll have a look at the lenses we have to offer at the same time. So here is the OM5. So Ben, just take us through a little bit deeper in terms of why the OM5 is kind of the best thing for you.
Definitely the compactness for it, how small it is in the hand and in the backpack. The weight is incredible, as I said, 480 grams for hiking, and that saves quite a bit. The in-body stabilization is absolutely incredible. I shoot up to probably 8 seconds handheld. I do have a steady hand as well, but I shoot up to 8-second handheld in low light without a tripod, which is incredible. And most of the time you wouldn't want to use more than that in landscape anyway. So yeah, tripods are redundant. And yeah, the high res mode is incredible. I use the 8 to 25 and the 4 to the 150. So people ask, but what about that between 25 and 40 millimeters? But that's when I use high res mode in between. So if I want to crop into the image of landscape, I'll use the high res mode. Obviously, I can't do the 80 megapixel tripod high res mode, which is the downside of not using a tripod. And yeah, focus stacking is very important because I always have close foreground into the image. So focus stack is incredible fast, and it's also pretty fast no matter what shutter speed you use. And yeah, exposure bracketing, which in theory is HDR. Exposure bracketing is super fast, and I really like that feature. Those are like my main features I really use. Wouldn't really use multiple exposures for landscape, not for my type of landscape, but you can do it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
No. And in terms of the weather sealing on the camera, it is just amazing, right? So the IP53, I imagine you've used that in all sorts of conditions, and it's just proven time and time again, right?
Yeah, I think the worst time was when I was in 100 miles an hour wind. We just start with the rescue team to do some like training, and I'm not part of the rescue team, but I was helping them out, and I took the camera with me, take some photos of them, and it got beaten. And I thought I was going to die, but it didn't. It survived. a lot of rain, a lot of snow, just constant change of weather. And that's one of the most important parts, weather sealing when you're in the mountains. It's just like rainproofs that you need to carry, because otherwise you're not going to survive in the mountains.
Yeah. I think that weather sealing does really play to its own strengths, and throughout the whole of our range, it's very good, and especially on the lenses as well. What's the longest you would say you've handheld a shot for, thanks to the image stabilization?
Yeah, I did mention it. It was 8 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
8
Yes.
seconds. Yeah, that was with the 8 to 25 millimeters f4 Pro. So I had to shoot f4, and the Aurora was out. Shot at 8 seconds, ISO 1600, and I got a sharp image out of it. It was perfect. It was like I was at a chairlift, so the chairlift was hanging there, so it was slightly moving. But what the image stabilization does, it follows the chair, because that's the focal point of the stabilization. So it followed it. So the chair was actually super sharp.
Wow, that is pretty impressive, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, this camera is quite a beast of a camera. For how small and lightweight it is, for the fact that it has all those computational modes in there, like that high res, like the live NDs built into it. That all of that sort of stuff is a game changer when we're kind of talking about such a small, lightweight camera. I think it's a very underrated camera out of the range we have. Everyone always looks at the OM1 Mark II and kind of goes straight towards that. However, if you want a nice, lightweight, weatherproof body, and you, again, for the job you're doing in terms of all the hiking and that sort of thing, it is literally the perfect camera. So
it's like your favorite hiking boots. You know, if you don't have good boots to go into hiking, your journey into the mountains will be very rough. So it's just like your favorite hiking boots and your favorite socks on top of it, which is the lens, and it works perfect.
Yes, exactly. So in terms of camera, if you haven't ever had a chance to play with an OM5, make sure you get to your kind of local retail store, because most stores have them ready to play with. There's lots of different kind of options in terms of different kits out there as well. So when you're looking at OM kit and you're thinking maybe as for a second body or a lighter body, OM5 is a really, really good option. So make sure you kind of get out into your retail stores or one of our events and come and try it, and maybe come and say hello to myself or one of the other members of the team who are out there in the UK and all over Europe, and get your hands on one. It's quite surprising just on how amazing this camera is.
It's one of those cameras, you hold it and it just works. It just works with no complications.
Yeah, that is the greatest way of putting it. Thank you, Ben. So we're going to go on to lenses now. Obviously, Ben, I know you haven't used all of these lenses, but we're going to talk about wide angles first. Is there any reason why you didn't go for the 9-18? Because obviously it is the smallest, it is the lightest lens in terms of wide angle. Is there any reason why you didn't go for that?
Yeah, I need it for the type of landscapes I shoot. By getting the foreground really close, I just needed 2 millimeters more, because I want to go to the 16 millimeters full frame equivalent, which is super wide. And this one was just not enough. So that's why I didn't add it to my kit.
I guess the other side. I guess the other side of it is not weather sealed as well, so that's not. You need that
to be weather sealed, but to start off with, it's a perfect lens just to try out and learn more about it.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to say about it. If you are beginning to try and understand wide angle lenses, because they offer a much different range than what you'd normally get on your kit lens. They're quite a change in type of photography when you start using them, and they take a little bit of learning to get used to. Then this is a great beginner lens to do that with. It's literally this big. It's tiny. It's very, very small. It's very, very lightweight. But as you can see the image on the screen there, it's a very, very powerful lens. It's not done by halves at all. So if you like I said, if you are looking to potentially get into landscapes and you need a wide angle lens, but maybe the budget doesn't fit, or you're not willing to take a risk on kind of quite a big, heavy lens or expensive lens, then this might be the best option for you. So it's definitely one of the most kind of lenses that appeals to me slightly a bit more sometimes when I want to go traveling, and especially for city breaks where you want to take pictures of buildings and that sort of thing, but you need it to be extra small. You're not too worried about the weather sealing. So
with the f4 aperture and a 5.6 at longest range, it means you most of the time have a sharp image.
That's it, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely one to think about in the market. So 825 f4. Now this is one of my personal favorites. Ben,
Also
I know you've already. Yeah, I know you've kind of spoken about it already, but give us an idea of what this lens does for you. You've already said it already doesn't come off camera, so you must be in love with this lens, right?
Yeah, this lens changed everything for me. Like I said, full frame APS-C sensor lenses would normally be 8 to 35, 8 to 28. Or sorry, 16 to 35 and 16 to 28, and this lens just changed that. Like, to having one lens to have such a versatile range from 8 to 25 millimeters, it's amazing to go from that wide scene landscapes up to a bit closer telephoto, and yeah, bringing the foreground into, you know, onto a wide angle and getting a sharp image from corner to corner is absolutely incredible. This lens is like 90% of the time on my OM5 Mark II. It's and the weather sealing on that never failed on me. It always worked perfectly with the OM5 Mark II.
Again, it's that IP53 rating, so the same as the OM5 Mark II. So you're getting that balance all the way through in terms of the weather.
It's a great lens to tell the story of the landscape. You can really bring in interesting features of the mountains. Like that picture was actually quite close to the front of the snow, and this picture was 6 seconds handheld because this was 45 minutes after sunset.
Wow, that is really impressive, actually, isn't it? That's really, really impressive. And in terms of sizes in comparison to that 9 to 18, if I can just hold these up, keep them level, it's probably almost double the size, and in terms of width, it's quite a big change. But the image quality differences and the autofocus speeds and that sort of thing, it's
feeling.
Yeah, it all makes it worth it to go for that upgrade, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's my top favorite lens. I just looked into the metadata of how many pictures I took with the 8 to 25 compared to all the other ones, and it was 80% of any other lens I had in my arsenal.
That's really impressive. And you've actually got another image that you sent me, which I think is absolutely stunning. You know, you've got the lighting rights. I don't know how you've done it, but
I always say, if you're standing next to me, you'll have the same light. You take the same picture.
See, I'm not sure I would. And I'm sure maybe a lot of people would agree with me that you get to see it in a very different way than potentially what others would. That there's something that you do that makes it different for us.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the perfect thing about the 8 to 25 millimeters f4 Pro is that to go wide, it's quite difficult to compose a scene with the widest part of the lens. And this is where it becomes interesting with the geology, like what's important towards the image and what's not. And having such a wide lens, you can really play around with it and then put all the puzzle pieces together and just create something interesting out of the geology of the mountains or anywhere you are in the world with a lens. But the 8 to 25 does challenge you. When you put it on the wide angle, you really have to think about what's important, what tells the story of the mountains and the landscape, and but it's so fun. It's so fun.
In this particular image, I really like how you've got that. I'm guessing it's a winding river from what I can tell from the screen. It's like just above that foreground. You must have kind of, I don't know if you've kind of stood up a little bit more or moved down a little bit more to make sure that's in, but you've really thought about it.
Yeah, it's all about giving space, especially when you're on a wide angle. You have to give space to your subject, space to the foreground, and the elements that are important in the image, which is incredible. And I was actually sitting on this particular, and I was just having the camera on my knee because obviously I didn't have a tripod.
It sounds like you needed a tripod, to be honest, but
I didn't have to crouch then.
Yeah, well, if you really got stuck, you could have used the rock, I suppose, but that would have then not been in the image.
Yeah.
So you had to use what
I'm
you had to
actually
use.
really close. I'm really close to the foreground, and I shot this at 5.6, and everything is shot up in one single image, which is incredible. But I was probably this close to the rock.
Wow,
it was incredible how
it does give you that such a wide angle, that this lens. It's very, very stunning.
If you went for the other lens that you just mentioned, the smaller one, I would either be cropping the mountain or the rock on the bottom. I just need that extra.
And it's for you, obviously, you can't always guarantee you've got like those 2 steps back to be able to use that 9mm to get everything right. Sometimes you just don't have that option.
No, you had to be standing on a ridge. In this particular case, I was actually standing on the slope. So if I take 2 steps back, I go higher up, and then the rock disappears in the foreground. So I'm like leaning backwards against the floor, and I take a photo.
So this lens really, really, really got your picture.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then obviously we have one other wide angle in our range, and that is the 7-14. Now let me just kind of do size comparison again so everyone's got an idea. So this is the 8-25, this is the 7-14, and as you can see, it's not hugely amount different, but the biggest difference is obviously then it is bulb on the end, so there is no filter thread, and it is heavier as well. Obviously the benefit is that it's got the f2.8, which if you're doing more low light stuff and astrophotography, obviously it's got its big uses. Personally, I used to have that lens and absolutely used to love it, but because of that end on it, it used to kind of flare a little bit too much for my sunset stuff, for example. So again, I've resorted back to that 8-25.
It's the perfect astro lens, that lens. I used it for maybe a week or so, and then I used the 8-25 at the same time. 8-25 was a bit more flexible, but then with this, you could shoot way better low light, and then had to do longer exposures handheld. So the f2.8 is perfect for astro.
Yeah, and you know what? If I could go back to it, I would. But that 8-25, that versatility is just it's the way forward, isn't it? So
yeah,
especially
should be the only one on the table. Just make a 2.8 Pro out of
it. This should have been your dream lens, right? An 8-25 f2.8. You would have been happy.
I'm always happy.
So, okay, so yeah, in all essence, it is a great lens though. I've shot with it for probably 3-4 years, and I was for the most time probably 80% happy with the results, apart from lens flare, which you just can't get around with that lens. But overall, if you're doing a lot of cityscapes or astro, it's a really, really good option for all of that sort of stuff. So there we go. We're going to get into telephotos now. So I get asked a lot from people why you'd use a telephoto for landscape. And I was hoping that maybe, Ben, you'd be able to answer that question. Why would you use telephoto for landscape?
Well, obviously, when you're in the mountains, there's also going to be far distant mountains which you can't shoot with 8-25. And high-res mode wouldn't be able to crop in that far either. So yeah, a telephoto is definitely needed in the mountains to pick out details or just distant hills. And in this particular image that you see there, is with the 40-150 f4 5.6, which is super small and lightweight. And I particularly didn't use that lens, but my partner wanted to use that lens. So we were hiking on this trip, and this lens she had with her, and it was so lightweight, and I was kind of jealous because at that point I had the 40-152 f2.8, which is quite significantly bigger and heavier. So I was like, I really want to just try this lens out, and I took this photo with it. Like, it was perfect. It was sharp. The downside is it doesn't have the weather sealing, and but this lens actually made me rethink my 40-140 to f2.8. and made me think about the f4 Pro lens,
Yeah.
which is a lot smaller and lighter as well than the 2.8.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you sent me this image. When we were discussing this lens and whether to put it in these slides. Obviously, you said you had a stock image for this, and you sent it over to me. And as soon as I opened it, I was just like, "You must be making a mistake. This picture out of this lens is astonishing. You know, this lens. Yes, it's not weather sealed, but it is so small. It is so lightweight. It's and to capture something out of it is just
if you
amazing,
if you really want to save as many weight as possible, then this lens would be in your kit. But then, you know, if the weather turns or you're doing long day trips, multi-hiking days, even in your backpack will get wet. So that's where it wouldn't be perfect for it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But we're good.
Ben,
oh yeah.
Can I ask one question in between? Andrew is asking, what millimeter did you set on the 40-150 at this picture? You remember more or less?
Yes, that would be 140 millimeters. So near to the end of the telephoto spectrum.
Okay, good. There is a nickname I didn't know for this lens. Colleen is writing, it's the plastic fantastic. I like it.
Plastic fantastic.
That's a great name for it.
When my partner gave me the lens, I was like, "What's this?" Compared to my f2.8, I was like, "This doesn't feel great." I took a photo, and you see the result.
It is impressive, but plastic fantastic. I think that's going to travel around with the European team. I think somewhat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to go on to the lens that you do use, which is then the 40-150 f4 Pro. Now, I've never got to shoot with this lens, but the results you've got out of it is amazing and make me want to use it.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this lens? How are you using this lens to its full capacity?
Well, the previous lens is what made me decide to maybe downsize my 40-150 2.8 Pro, because it was a bit heavy for the hills. So I was looking for an alternative, and then I think that one was just released, the 40-150 f4 Pro. And when I saw how much it weighs, I think it's 382 grams. I was like, perfect. Like this got to be the one, you know, in between. It has the weather sealing. It should have, you know, equal image quality and sharpness within the lens. And yeah, I picked it up, and it was tiny. I was like, this can't be 150 either. And I did a lot of tests with it 150 to make sure the image quality was like equal, and it was so perfect. And once I had that lens in my hand, I never took the 2.8 with me anymore in the mountains, just because of that weight saving.
And to give you an idea just how big this lens is, so in comparison to my small hand, it's you know, it's kind of coffee mug size, right? It's, you know,
it fits perfect with the OM5 Mark II, because that camera is designed for the smaller lenses, the f4 Pro lens, for hiking and traveling, you know, as lightweight as possible. And that together with the 80-25 is just a perfect combination.
Yeah. And you've got some stunning images once again from this lens as well. So if we move to the next slide, I don't think anyone would complain about that. The sharpness, the detail, just...
when I took that photo, I was like, that lens is perfect.
Yeah, the way you captured the light in that image,
the light was fantastic. It was actually on the Five Sisters of Cantel, which is a big long ridge, and just before you reach the mountain summit, or the first of the five, this view opened up. It was first just snowing consistently all over me, and you couldn't see a thing, and then it just cleared up like this. And the 40-150 f4 Pro was on the camera and did its job.
Yeah, I think when you showed me this image, I was a bit overwhelmed by this image, because it's such an important picture. I feel like just the amount of detail you've captured and the story that is telling is quite astonishing, really.
Yeah, I've used this image quite a lot with nature reserves and rewilding because Scotland in general is degrading in terms of wildlife and forests. So what this really shows is like there's new forests being planted on the right, and then it rises up from the sky, the mountains, and it tells a story of regrowth.
Yeah, for me, this is a very Lord of the Rings kind of themed style of this image. So, and yeah, I'm a bit of a geek for that. So, so it works out.
I
for me.
know Richard loves painting, and he paints Lord of the Rings stuff. So this would be perfect for him to paint.
Yeah. One day, you never know. I might just try and recreate it just for you. So, and then obviously we move off to the f2.8, which obviously you were using. Now, to give you a bit of a size difference, it's quite big in comparison. However, in most general terms, it is still a small, lightweight lens. It's f2.8 all the way through. In terms of 35mm equivalent, it's 80 to 300. So that's an astonishing range to have an f2.8 constant all the way through it. So
it's still a lightweight lens compared to others.
Yeah. Would you say you miss it for kind of any normal day photography in comparison to the f4, or?
Well, I do like to shoot sometimes flowers, getting like little details of the landscape itself to tell the story. It's not just about the grand landscape, it's about texture, it's about, the insects that live there and the flowers and the flora in general. And this lens was quite good to capture all that, all across the board. And also for wildlife, it was pretty good as well. And you can also use the 2x extender on it as well, so you can get a bigger range. But yeah, the lightweight other lens was just better for me, just in general, just to go hiking. That was literally the only reason.
Yeah, and we've got to point this picture out. This picture is absolutely stunning, and when you look at this close up, it is absolutely pin sharp. And
the f2.8 lens is definitely the sharpest of them all. I'm always mind blown when I zoom in the image with this lens, how sharp it is, and then I'm like, maybe I should get it back for that sharpness.
Yeah.
Every time I zoom in with that lens, it's incredible. It's known to be a great lens.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most infamous lenses we have in our range. That it just performs every time, and I've never seen a bad one, to be honest. I've never seen a bad shot out of it, I don't think. So.
And also the plus side of this one being slightly bigger and heavier is when you hold it with your OM5 Mark II, is actually slightly more stable than the 40 to 150 f4 Pro, because it's lighter, so you have more jiggle. When it's a bit slightly heavier, it's more stable. So I did notice that as well.
Yeah, because all that weight then goes into the lens, right? So so you're carrying all that stabilization in your hand rather than in the body. So yeah, for me, it's a lens that I've always got on me. It's a really, really good piece of kit. And then we're going to move on to something a little bit completely different.
Sorry.
Oh,
wait.
Oh, hello.
Ginger Crippen says, I love the face on the middle mountain.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a face, yeah.
I didn't even see myself.
Before it disappears.
Well, the mountain is called Sgurr Ildermore, so you know its name.
What's the name?
Sgurr Ildermore. It's very Scottish.
Okay.
I wonder what that means later on down the line. Intrigued. If anyone knows, let us know, by all means.
Let us know,
yeah. So that kind of takes us to the last slide of the equipment showcase, which is going completely off the photographic topic for 1 second, and that is accessories. So as we've already developed, there's a tripod there, and I know, Ben, you don't use a tripod.
A red cross in the middle.
Some landscape photographers do. So they do need shutter releases. I know there's probably going to be a lot of comments about this shutter release. It is very, very good. Yes, it is currently out of stock. Yes, it is coming back in. I don't know when, so apologies. But I wanted to just highlight the fact that we discussed that clothing is really important factor when hiking and out on the trails that you're on. So I put hiking socks there to remind me, but they're OM hiking socks to be exact, which you can purchase on our website.
I would like to be sponsored by your socks, you know.
I'll see what we can do. Yeah, sorry. Talk to us about clothing very quickly.
Yeah, the accessories would be so important in the hills, like especially clothing. Tripod you can put a red cross in, but yeah, clothing is very important. Needs to be weatherproof, needs to be breathable. You know, all these little things you have to have extras, and that also carries a bit of weight as well. So yeah, crossing the tripod out saves weight. I don't use the shutter remote release, so that's not coming with me anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important. Just like the OM5 Mark II, the weather sealing of it, it's just like your clothes that you wear in the mountains.
Yeah. And is there anything else I've forgotten on that accessory wise that is ultra important? Now I'm not talking, a tent or a backpack. I think we've got the basics, but anything we're totally missing.
Learning to know how to navigate the landscape, how to be safe, make sure you're planning, safety routes, lot of plans, making sure people know where you are and those kind of things. It's very important. And that's equally as exciting as actually doing the photography, the planning of the hiking, where you're going to be at certain times, and make sure you stay safe in the hills. And when you're safe, then the fun begins. That's when you take the camera, be patient, and wait for beautiful moments to happen.
Yeah, that's it.
I have another accessory question. My question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you carry your camera?
How do I carry my camera? I do it actually three ways. I do have the Peak design clip, which I use on my backpack. I did say in the last live stream is that I generally use it when I do climbing, rock climbing, when I'm on really steep ground, and I like to have it here in case I need to take some photos. But when I'm just hiking, either be just in my backpack because I'm just enjoying the landscape, and then I don't really want to worry about the camera itself. And then I just take a picture when I think something looks really beautiful, or I use just a normal strap around me. And I would use a normal strap around me because when I'm waiting for sunset, I'll be just dropping my backpack, leave it there, and just explore the landscape. And I just have the camera hanging off me. So it's a perfect combination, all of it. There's no one is better than the other.
Perfect.
And do you have the hand strap when you take the camera from here, or just without anything?
My partner would like that I would use that, because every time, like when we do on a boat trip, I'm like this with my camera. She's like, Ben, put the hand strap on. And I never do. And at some point I was like nearly dropped it.
Oh,
yeah. I always use this. So if something happens.
Yeah. My partner would be happy you reminded me.
And there is another question for what backpack do you use?
So I use a few backpacks. So for longer trips, I use the Osprey bag, and I just have a little camera bag because the camera itself is small and the lenses are small. I just use a really small camera bag that I put on the bottom of the backpack. If I do more of a day trips, I use Shimoda bags. I think they're really good hiking bags. I also think F-Stop also good hiking bags. It's just whatever suits you and what's comfortable for you, because everybody is different. So I can't just say like one bag is super perfect, but it fits my shape body.
Okay, and then adding to this question, does your backpack hold a hydration bladder, water, food, etc.?
Yes, yeah, the Osprey definitely holds a hydration bladder. And I do fill up my water quite often in the mountains by just drinking from streams. I know what to look out for. You can carry a water filter just in case if you want to just filter the water. But the Shimoda bag doesn't have it, so I just carry just a lightweight bottle.
Nice. There's also a question about filters, but we will get to that in a minute, because that is a different part of this conversation. So that's equipment out of the way. Like I said, please get out into your retail stores, go and play with the kit, find us at some events, come and talk to us and play with the kit, and kind of get your hands on some of the wide angles and the telephotos and have a play. You never know, you might really like some of the kit. So we're going to move on. Settings
Yes.
and techniques. This is obviously a very big topic for landscape. There's lots of ways you can do things, okay? And I'll always say, as I did in the last one, there is no right, there is no wrong. Everyone has their own way of shooting. What we're going to do in this is talk to Ben about how he shoots, and yeah, this is his way of doing it. If you have a different way, that's fine. If you're just trying to learn how we're doing it, then this is the section for you. So let's get into the mode dial, something we didn't discuss last time. We have program, aperture priority, shutter priority, manual priority, bulb mode, and then all your custom modes. Ben, what are you normally using these days?
I'm always on manual mode because I like to control everything myself, because the light does change quite often in a landscape. So I often would like to just change it myself. That also depends on if I do exposure bracketing or if I do focus stacking. So I would like to be in control of it. I have used the other mode dials as well, but that's more if I do travel photography. If I'm out for a day where it's not about the photography itself, you just want to take a photo, so that'll be perfect for that. But yeah, I would like to control everything myself: aperture, the ISO, shutter speed.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And do you use the custom modes? This is something we get asked about a lot. How do we use the custom modes? What do they do? Do you use them?
I used them for like color grading inside the camera. So also with the OM5 Mark II, you can do a bit of tone curve changing, shadows, and just color saturation and stuff like that. So I do tend to put them on the custom modes and the white balance as well. But apart from that, I don't set them off like one for wildlife, one for landscape, one for macro. But you can do that. And I've seen people doing that, and I always think like, oh, I should do that. Put C3 for macro. There's easy change. And I'm just like faffing with my manual still.
Yeah. So I do exactly the same. So yeah, I shoot everything in manual, but the amount of people that talk to me about the custom modes, I feel like I should be shooting the custom modes and setting them up to doing macro and landscape and that sort of thing. But I don't think you can beat a bit of manual. If you want to learn manual, that is. Obviously, you have the program mode there to just be able to change your exposure and not think about it too much, and it's a great learning tool.
And in the custom mode, you can also shoot manual as well, and you can set it up whether you want it to be a program, aperture priority. You can choose whether you want it to be in the custom mode.
Yeah. And what I was going to say about program, if you are looking to learn a bit more about photography and trying to understand this mode dial and how everything works, all I normally do is set up some flowers on a table, and I literally spin that dial, and I spin the dials on it and literally play. That's the easiest way to learn what all the modes do on this camera. So that's the way I would do it. So let's move on then. As like last time, we did a quick fire round on what we'd call the basic setup. It's a bit of a game, yeah. So let's get started really, really quickly then. So Ben, shutter speed, where are we at on this scale?
For landscape, because there's tend to be not any moving subjects, I'll always be between 4 seconds and up to 200 of a second. Obviously, if it's brighter daylight or when you do exposure bracketing, you have to go a bit higher. So with landscape, you do have a big variation of shutter speed that you can use. I tend to use it that it just looks good. It doesn't matter what the shutter speed is. It looks good on the live view. I'll take the picture, and then the shutter speed is just redundant. And especially with the in-body stabilization, when I go to 1 second, I do not worry whether it's going to be sharp or not. It will be sharp.
Yeah. Okay. Aperture, big one for landscapes.
Well, I'd be always between 5.6 and f8. That'd be my most used aperture. I do use f11 for if I want to create star burst in the sky. If you want to get that beautiful star in the sun, then higher going up to f11, and there will most likely not be any diffraction even when you go that high, f11.
Yeah. Okay. ISO.
It's always standard on 200. 200 is what I've been told is the best quality image. You can go lower, 100, 50, which can be really handy if it's super bright. So I do use it if it's super bright conditions. And then I would sometimes go to 1600 for low light images.
Cool. And then the last one on this slide, frames per second. I'm sure you use Pro Capture, right? Everyone uses Pro
so
Capture.
I was going to say I use Pro Capture. I
Yeah.
definitely want to have 40 images before, just to get that sun just right above the horizon, you know. And then I swap over to the single one. So yeah, I most of the time use a single frame. And then silent mode is actually pretty perfect because it's obviously electronic, so it doesn't. There's no physical item closing in the camera. So if you want to just to be sure that it is perfectly sharp, you go in silent mode for 30 seconds, 1 second images, and then Pro Capture just to get that sun just perfectly right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what you
Richard,
need.
Richard, could you please explain Pro Capture for the beginners?
Oh, trick question straight out of the back. Pro Capture basically allows you to take a set of images whilst you're holding down the shutter button, not all the way, only half pressed. So it is storing those images up. Then when you push the button down fully, that is when it will save those images and the image you've just taken. So yes, nice and easy. Does that answer the question for you, Fanny?
Thank you.
What's incredible actually is with this with the camera, and especially with the OM5 Mark II, is that you have all of those in the camera. So if I ever want to do wildlife, I have these features within those camera body. I don't have to look somewhere else to be like, oh, I really want a wildlife camera now, because it does it. I can do landscapes, I can do wildlife, I can do sports, I can do city, nightscapes, all in one.
That's it. That's what it's about. This camera can do everything. So let's move on to the next set of fire round then. Autofocus type, Ben.
Single autofocus all the time, and I use back button focus. So I focus once on a landscape. Doesn't matter when I move the camera; it will always be focused on that part of what I used. I do actually use star autofocus, and that's a game changer. Never have to manually focus anymore. I just point at the brightest star. I just press the button, it focus, and it will always be sharp. Then it's honestly.
I was actually using that a couple of nights ago, and it is absolutely stunning. It's very, very fast and very accurate for what it does.
Yeah, it's really accurate. I couldn't believe it.
Focus grid. It's an interesting one for landscape.
I use normally single, small single ones, because I really want to control where I focus. If I go for a larger focus grid, it does tend to focus more on the closer up subjects, which could be perfect for wildlife, obviously, because they'll be closer than the background. But for the landscapes, I really want to control the focus, because you either go 3/3 of the way into of the image you focus, or you focus into infinity. So and then if you want to go large, just get the camera designing itself. It's perfect for street photography. It's super quick.
Just a quick one. We can hear the geese in the background, by the way. Again,
you can hear the geese miles away, but you can't hear yourself talk through the microphone.
It's amazing. For you just using a small mic on your chest there, it's amazing. Metering then, where are you stand on metering?
I would actually go for the highlight. I find that the spot metering for highlight is actually really important in the landscape. I find that I need to protect the highlight more with a smaller sensor, because the shadow would be perfect anyway. You can go ESP and just let the whole image getting metered, which can be perfect for all. But just in general, for landscape, I'll go for the highlights.
Cool.
Because highlight clipping can be an issue just in general with any system.
And then computational modes.
I use exposure bracketing a lot, so that comes on the bracket, but it's a form of HDR, so it's manually taking either 3 or 7 images, and then you combine them together in a program, which I use quite a lot, especially when you shoot into the sunset. With any system, it'd be quite difficult to shoot into the sunset with lots of shadow, lots of highlight to bring that all back into one single file. So bracketing is super fast in this camera. I use high res to have the millimeters between 8 to 25 and the 40 to 150. I use that quite often for that in between. And then, yeah, live ND all the time. When there's water, live ND. And you can also do intentional camera movement photography, ICM, with live ND. So the camera will make the shutter speed go lower, and you shake the camera and get a painterly photo out of it. And yeah, and GND, which is not in the OM5 Mark II, but GND is incredible. I can demonstrate it, but I'm not sure if it works now because it's it's dark.
Yeah, we might have lost it.
Yeah.
So GND works is if you have an overexposed image, which see it doesn't work now.
No.
That's so cool.
That didn't work.
But there was a question now. That's the perfect moment from Andrew. What is the difference between HDR and high resolution? Do you want to explain it, maybe, Ben? Or do you want us to explain it?
Yeah, I think both would work in a similar way. When you use high res, you obviously get also higher dynamic range image as well at the same time. But if it goes wrong, you can't get it back. If you use HDR, you still get the 3 images separately. So yeah, you get a final composite image out of a HDR, but you also get the 3 images separately still in your files. So you can still get it together yourself. And that's the same with bracketing. But when you do bracketing, exposure bracketing, you're more in control than HDR for exposure bracketing.
The high resolution, Andrew, just to explain it a little bit different, it works with sensor shift. So you have the sensor moving 2 pixels to the right, 2 pixels down, 2 pixels left and up, and then it's stacked. So you really have high details. And the high dynamic range works with different pictures over and underexposed and a lot in between. So you have enough structure in the dark parts and in the really light parts.
Yeah, so you get more data within the shadows, the highlights, and the color accuracy also is a bit better as well on high res files as well, because you combine a lot more color. So yeah.
Yeah, in which you've already done the work for it, but there was a slide I prepared earlier for high res shot. If it loads, there we go. Yeah, so obviously it merges images into a single image, 50 megapixels handheld, 18 megapixels on a tripod. So high res is a feature we've had in our cameras for a very long time, and it's always been a staple for landscape photography for a lot of people. It's a phenomenal piece of kit that, by all means, everyone should be using if you're doing a bit of landscape, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an incredible feature. If you want really more details, print larger, but the 20 megapixel sensor in the camera is already really incredible. And I print large with those files as well. And I think the largest one was, 3 meters. Yeah, 3 meters long, and you could not tell whether it was shot on the full frame or micro four thirds, and that was shot on 20 megapixels. 20 megapixels, you can do so much as well. Yeah, and if you want to go bigger, obviously, you can do the 50 megapixels and have all the benefits that are setting there, better color accuracy, more better noise reduction on it as well. So it's just perfect to have that in the camera, and you can always use it whenever you want to.
Yeah. That's it. And it's this now with the OM5 Mark II in particular, you've now got it obviously in the menu. You've got it as a custom button. You've got it on the custom dial. You can put it literally anywhere. So it can be on a flick of a switch or a button straight on camera, which is ultra important.
It's highly customizable, the camera.
Yeah, so really, really useful to get on one of those quick buttons. So we then want to go into, oh, no, we didn't want to do that. Apologies. We wanted to go to here. There we go. So live ND and live GND, so gradual neutral density. Someone was asking about filters earlier. Technically, now you don't have to put many filters on our cameras if you don't want to. It's another accessory you don't have to carry, because our cameras have all your neutral density built in. You use this feature quite a lot, I'm guessing, Ben?
I use it a lot, yeah. I don't, apart from a polarizer that I carry with me into the mountains, I do use any other filters, because it does save a lot of weight. And also the problem is when you take filters, obviously it's glass, needs to be protected. So either has to be in protected case, which is going to add up more weight, or you have to, you know, your backpack is going to be plus 10 kilograms up to 20 kilograms. So, you know, there will be a lot of pressure on the bag itself. So carrying all this, you know, glass with you, it's not always ideal. And then, yeah, with the Live ND itself, to create, you know, smooth waters, you know, in camera, it's just incredible. I don't have to faff around with filters. I don't have to clean the filters. It's just,
Yeah,
that's really incredible.
Yeah, and it's really, really simple to access as well. So it's just straight into the computational modes of the camera. Again, you can put them straight onto a quick button as well. So yeah, it's one of those things that you can add very quickly into the camera, and it becomes a very powerful tool very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very versatile. You can, you know, smooth out the water. You can, you know, create ICM images, which are incredible with it as well. And yeah, you can also create a live view simulation, which is really interesting, because rather than taking the photo and seeing what's happening, then you can already sort of see what's happening within the image. So for looking for compositions, it's quite ideal as well, just to move it. And then the next slide, as you see on the left, it's with the ND filter. On the right is not. So on the right it's shot in 180 of a second, and on the left is I think it was 1 second, if I'm correct. And you see a big difference. So yeah, and it was raining so much in that moment. I didn't want to just open my backpack, get the filters out, and yeah, Live ND is really handy. Yeah, to create a smooth water. You can see it on the left, creates a beautiful streaks that everyone loves. And then yeah, if you want to have more details, you can just easily just press it off quickly. One press of a button, and you can, you know, capture more detail in the water without having to take the filter off. And
yeah, and then in terms of gradual ND, well, this is a massive game changer for the landscape community, I think, with our cameras. So being able to control that, you can turn it upside down. You've got almost 360 degrees worth of motion. You can have hard, soft, medium grads as well. It's pretty impressive piece of kit, and even on this shot, as you can see, it's worked wonders, right?
Yeah, the live GND is an incredible feature. So for this particular image, I was exposing for the shadows because there was no light on it at all. And then you can see on the top, it's just white clouds and an inversion. So it's just white against black almost. And yeah, to expose for it, I had to expose for the shadows, but then the highlights was completely out. And then using the live GND, it basically just mimics a glass, a dark shade on top of it, just to darken a part of the image, which it did on the left, which then shows details in the cloud and yeah, in the inversion itself. And it's super quick. Like it's super quick to be done. You don't have to faff around with the filters again. It's literally a press of a button. You can change, like you said, soft, medium, hard, grad. And this one is used on a medium as well. And you can also do it in reverse. If the foreground is really bright and the background is really dark, you can put the graduate from the bottom to the top and from left to right. And it really helps with telling the story of the mountains itself. You know, being present without having to carry those filters and putting it on. And it's all about simplicity. If I want to go in the mountains, it's all about the simplicity. You know, you want to be away from things and daily life itself, and so having to worry about those things. Yeah, with the OM5 Mark II, the OM3, OM5, OM1 Mark II. It's just simple. It just works. Press of a button and it just comes alive.
Yeah, and obviously if you've got the right lens like the 825 f4, you can then put your filters on top of that ND or G&D as well, can't you? So
Yeah,
you can start really getting some really slow shutter speeds that way as well. So
yeah, there's so many opportunities to photograph the mountains in different ways, and also for street photography, like when a lot of the times the buildings are very dark and then you have the sunlight on the people on the foreground. You just put that live G&D on it and it's a perfectly exposed image.
Yeah, that's it. So hopefully people have really learned something out of that, and found some, maybe the computational features really, really useful. Let us know in the comments if you kind of liked some of that the settings, and whether you'd find that a bit more useful in the future. It'd be really interesting to know. But for now, we're going to move on. So we want to talk a little bit about light and computational stuff, which kind of moves us away from settings generally, and talks more about kind of what sort of picture are we taking, where are we going to capture that. And we've got some pinpoints here that hopefully Ben will approve of most of them, and kind of be able to explain how all these matter to him personally and how he works.
Yeah, light and compositions is one of the most important things in landscape, and the patience of it as well. I always say to people, clients, a beautiful view doesn't necessarily mean a beautiful photo. Like, it could obviously can be a memory photo, but if you really want to dive into composition, it's about understanding the layers, the light, and how the weather influences the mountains, the sunrise and sunsets, how they influence the mountains, because different parts of the year the light interacts different with the mountain, so you get different images. And yeah, patience with it is very key as well, like just being there and witnessing it all, and just understanding how the landscape works and what's important, what type of rock there is laying there. And when you learn more about all these little things, it's like, it's actually more than just a view. It's life. Everything that's around lives. And yeah, to create a beautiful composition, it's all about getting all those key elements together and understanding how light works, blue hour, sunlight, and midday, what type of images you can get. And as beautiful as they look, I always say, if people come with me, they'll be taking the same images because they have the same light. But yeah, then it's also about understanding the camera, the settings. But the basics is always light and comp, and being patient and just being there and understanding it and just enjoy it. That's the most important part.
Yeah. And when we were chatting the other day, I asked you about the whole Walter Mitty moment of right at the end of the film, where where he should be taking that picture of that leopard or whatever it is. I think it was a snow leopard. Yeah. Have you ever had that moment, instead of just taking the shot, you've just taken that moment in?
I have, yeah. It was on the mountain range, or a mountain called Anchalach. When you get to one of the summits, the view is stunning. It's like watching a snow leopard for the first time in your life. And this was during sunrise in winter. So as the sun was just rising, there was just beautiful pink glow on the snow and in the mountains. But knowing that it can also change really quickly as the sun rises, that pink glow will go away in a minute or two. And I was just sitting there, and I was like, I don't really want to take a photo. I just don't. So I wasn't prepared for anything compositional wise. I was just amazed by how the light was interacting. And then I was like, and then I got back to reality. I was like, okay, this might happen only once. So I just grabbed the camera and took the photo and find something. But you get often when you're really involved, like, getting yourself into the mountains and you're being inspired, a lot of times, the best thing about hiking is not even hiking. It's just sitting there and just watching it.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully, maybe we can do something more later about light and composition, because there's a whole minefield of stuff in that. That's literally a few points to kind of how to kind of get to that point, right? But for me, golden hour is a massive opportunity for most people. Ensuring that, you know, weather-wise, go out in kind of after that storm's finished, because when those clouds are going to make that atmosphere, and, you know, the sunrises and sunsets, make sure you get the time to go out there. But patience is the big one, right? It's you have to have patience and watch. Yeah, you got to watch that light happening, and, you know, very quickly, because of the cameras we have, we can just snap off 1,000 pictures really quickly, right? But having that patience and watching the subtlety of light happen on that landscape and finding that right time to take the picture.
Yeah, this is where I always think the embodied stabilization works. People always joke, like, making fun of me that I really don't like the tripods. I have nothing against tripods, but like, knowing that I can go in the mountains and without having to set up a tripod to photograph something, I can just be more in the moment and just know that if something happens or I find something, I could just point the camera at it, no matter what shutter speed it is. Obviously not more than 8 seconds probably. But like, yeah, it's just getting yourself out there and just really experience it is what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we are going to move on to a little bit of inspiration. When the slides want to move, there we go. So this is where we get Ben to do a little bit of work like he hasn't done enough already, right? And basically we get you to talk about your 5 top images from last year. We leave it kind of down to you to kind of tell us who, what, when, why. We want to know all the detail. It doesn't need to be technical, but just kind of tell us the story behind these pictures as we go forward. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move into number 1.
This is it's a special place. This is the mountain range called Mamors, which you asked me what was my favorite mountain range. And early on in my photography career and hiking, it was one of my first areas to go into, and I was so inspired by the mountains. And this is one of those moments where it's like, it's not about being on top of the mountains, it's about being among them. So I was like lower down, and the day before there was a big storm. There was just so much wind and snow coming in, and we had to put our tents up and find a shelter that we're not in the wind. We built a snow wall around us, and we did not know what was going to happen tomorrow. The weather forecast was either sunny or no visibility at all. And then we woke up to this, woke out on a tent, and you can really see in the foreground and midground how much of that wind has shaped the features of the snow. And when composing something like this, it's about telling the story of the landscape and what you've been previously through. And I was in heavy wind, so I wanted to include that sort of windswept snow through the mountain. And then behind there is Binion Bag. Love that name. That's the mountain name. And then the sunrise, it was just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
So we'll move on to the next one. There we go.
So this was on the same day. This is also on the Mamors. The tent was just behind me. And this is when the light actually kicked off on the mountain. Then I just went back to my tent first. I had to defrost my my shoes because they were completely frozen, even though they were in my sleeping bag, to stay warm. But they completely froze over. So I was walking around with frozen boots, and my laces I couldn't tie because they were frozen. So I had a friend with me. So while I was shooting this in my socks, she was holding my boots on top of a campfire, like a little stove fire, to warm it up because I could not put my feet in it. And that was that, again, it's about how the wind really changed the scene of the landscape, because the day before the snow was just laying there, like just still, and there was no features within the landscape, and the snow really windswept the foreground, and that tells how fast it's been, because you can see all the lines of the snow hitting the grass. And it was just a special moment together. And also it's about the story, what I've done before. Like I was in my socks in that moment while my friend was defrosting my boots. So doesn't matter how much prepared you are, things can go wrong, or it can completely change.
That's an amazing story. This one.
Yeah, that's also one of my favorite islands. It's called the Isle of Arran. Yeah, Isle of Arran. And it's known to be Scotland in miniature. So it has everything you can find in Scotland within one island. And it was on my list for a long time. And you don't really see many photos of it in terms of like people photographing it, or there's people hiking it. And sometimes you glimpse of the mountains, but they never really translate the mountains how they look. So when you arrive on the island looks very flat. It looks like there's a bit of hills, a bit more like Lake District, a bit like more subtle hills. And then you end up, you get to one of those top of the mountains, and the geology just forms, transforms the island, the feeling of it. So it's a volcanic island. It used to be a volcanic island, and there's so much happening in there. Glacial movements, and it's been affected by the sea. And I like to incorporate like these little craters that you can see in the foreground that represents that sort of geology within the mountain. So waking up to this view is it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to take a picture.
Yeah. You can the image really tells a story with the geology involved, doesn't it? It's you can really see it. It's great. Now, what a shot! Tell us about this shot. It's amazing.
This place is incredible. It's called the Fisher Field, and it's a very, very remote place. It's one of the most remote places in Scotland. I can't remember out of my head how many kilometers you have to hike, but just to start one of the mountains, you'd be hiking like 30 to 40 kilometers to even start those hills, depending on where you come from. And it was a 4-day trip with my friend Ross Davidson, incredible photographer as well. And we just spent the time together. And this was one of those. This was one of the last days where it was day 4. We came down, and as you can see in the distance, there's a causeway, and we saw these lenticular clouds in the sky, and we thought, are we going back now and miss an incredible sunset, or are we going to do one last hike up a mountain? We dropped our camping bags somewhere down there where you can see the causeway on the left, and then we went up with our cameras. And this story tells of stepping stones and how many steps I've taken, within the landscape. But the best memory of this picture was just spending time with my friend in the mountains. And it's that connection of like land and water. And obviously the light is incredible that came through. So that was that last distant memory of the trip, and we definitely will be returning there.
That's a truly inspirational story. And then last image, which is probably my personal favorite from your collection here. Just mind blowing, this image.
I called it Dune of Soul, and that's the title of the image. This moment was incredible. It's one of the hardest images I've ever shot. So previous visits, I've always been in the cloud, and it's been one of my dream mountains to photograph. And I've been there 4 or 5 times and never photographed anything. Spent 4 days on top of the mountain once with no view, and the farmer who owns the land on the side knew that was up the mountain, because I told him, so I knew if I don't come back that he could call out rescue. And I came back down the 4th day. He was like, "Did you see that incredible sunrise?" And I was like, "No, I was in the cloud." So I was determined. To come, back to photograph something I envisioned in here. And it's a very alien landscape. And I bivvied on there in 70 miles an hour wind. So I managed to shelter myself with my bivvy, and all the people who wanted to camp on there was like 4 other people, they returned back because the wind was so strong. So I went up the summit here, and then the mist rolled in, the sun was rising, and I was like, ha ha, like the Lion King moment. And then it was me, it looks very peaceful, and there's me with my camera, being shaken around by 70 miles an hour, trying to do an exposure bracket, making sure everything is sharp. But I did that with the OM5 Mark II. It handled it so perfect. It was so hard.
Yeah, for the fact that that's come out of an OM5 Mark II is amazing. Like that, it really shows the true quality of that camera. It's
Mm.
it's
And you pointed
it's
out,
stunning.
why didn't I brighten up the shadow of the rock? So this is one of the
Yeah,
important things, with light, is that, the background mountains are dark. There's like dark and light. So if you were to brighten up the foreground rock, even though they're a part of the feature, they would stand out too much. So yeah, you can play around with light and shadow, and that's one of the ways. So I think the rock stands out more being in shadow than it was if I brightened it up slightly in editing.
yeah. Well,
But that was tough.
I
That was
yeah
I shot
yeah
the sunrise and it wasn't over yet, so I had to go down in 70 miles an hour wind, and it was just blowing over the whole time. And then it was perfectly sunny, blue skies, and that shows how the weather can change so much in the mountains. It can be sunny, but it can be very dangerous.
yes yeah, and well, it's a great thing you overcome the odds on that. I imagine to get a shot like that really kind of
That's where
proves that.
the tripod comes with a red cross in this. That would have been blown over. That would have been blown. I would have not, if the in-body stabilization wasn't that incredible, I would have never been able to pull out this shot, especially because it exposure bracketed as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's one question to this picture. How did you get the foreground detail without overexposing the sun?
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to capture this photograph naturally with any system, because the sun was so bright, the mist was so bright, and the foreground rock was really dark. So either I exposed through the highlight, which means that anything that's dark in the picture would just be picture black and there would be no detail. If I expose through the shadow, there'd be barely any, like the light will just be completely blown over. So I used exposure bracketing on the camera. So I go to the bracket setting, or you put it on a manual setting on top of your camera. And then when you press it and you scroll your dial, you can choose between 3 images, exposure bracketing, 5 or 7. And then you basically take a series of images, you put your exposure to where you want it to be, then it takes either 1 stop or 2 stops lower, or 1 stop higher and 2 stops higher. And then, yeah, so I get the details in the highlights, the details in the midground, the midtone, sorry, and the shadows. So, and then I combine them in Lightroom. And that's a really simple process. You literally select them all, HDR merge, and it does it for you. Like, I didn't do much to this.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you.
I think everyone can honestly say that is a stunning picture. It's a one in a lifetime shot that not everyone's going to get that shot, but it's a truly inspirational piece to kind of get out there, go hiking safely, mind you, and take some stunning pictures like that.
It's a long hike as well to get to these type of mountains, so you have to be very well prepared with your gear, waterproofs, making sure the navigation is right. If things go wrong, you make sure you have the equipment to use, who to call if you are in emergency. And so this is why saving weight is very important, because weight can change the experience a lot, and can make you so much more tired if you're carrying tripods and stuff like that in the mountains.
All right, I'll never carry a tripod again. I get it, Ben.
Cross. I'll be known as the tripod hater.
Yes, and I'm known as I always say I am tripod lazy. I don't want to take
Sales of tripods going down in 2026.
Okay, well, thank you for the images, Ben. Absolutely stunning. We'll keep on going through some images that on repeat as we just go through the last few bits, and then we'll get into question time. I know there's quite a few questions that we will get to, I promise. We just got a few last admin bits, and then we'll get there. So so just to let you guys know, we have an Adventure Awaits cashback available. It is on the OM5 Mark II. It's on the 714 F2A. It's on the 825 F4, which we have been talking about and banging on about all show. It's the 150 F4 that, Ben's totally in love with as well. There's even the F28 option and £500 off the OM1 Mark II for cashback as well. So there's lots of great offers there. So make sure you kind of get them purchased if this has been any use to you. I've already put in the comments the link to go to right at the beginning. So make sure you have a look at the promotions available. Just very quickly, in the UK, we have a lot of events going on. The big one for me is OM Talks. So you will see me, our new colleague Luke, and Claire Voyle will be back on a show live. This is on the 30th of April, or 1 o'clock, if I believe. We are doing it in Gavin's studio again, so you will have some really exciting stuff, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. You've then got another big walkthrough with Trail and Adventure with Wayne Robinson. You've got some full-on macro days with myself, one in Bristol tomorrow. Make sure you're there if you're in Bristol. Milton Keynes very soon. You've got Bird at Prey experience. You've got the Insect Macro Workshop. We only have 6 tickets left for that, so make sure you get involved if you can. Yeah, we've got loads of stuff going on, and there's the Wales and West show in June as well, so make sure you have a look and get your tickets for that as well. Just going to quickly into OM Talks, like I said, 1 o'clock, 30th of April. Me, Claire, Gavin and Luke. It's a new concept from the Coffee and Claire's that everyone will remember. It's very chat showy. We're all sitting down having a chat. There's a few debates in there, really important ones, like the 40 to 150 F28 against the 50 to 200 F28. We get asked a lot about what the difference is. You will find out on that show. Also, the really big debate that everyone seems to ask: a full frame versus micro four thirds. Who is the winner? Who's better than the other? You've got Luke, who's come from a full frame system. You've got me and Claire, that's come from micro four thirds, and well, I've used everything, but it will be a really interesting debate. We'll also be going through the photography show stuff as well. So make sure you catch that either live or later on. So all the admin out of the way very quickly. There we go. What everyone's been waiting for, question time. So Fanny, I'm sure there's been a fair few amount of questions. If we could find them up, we've probably got about, let's say, 8 minutes left, and then I'm sure Ben,
I try to be fast.
Go for it.
Okay. So the first question you asked me is also connected with one of the questions. And what's my favorite kit for landscape? And I thought about it, and when I crossed the Alps, I took the OM5 with the 1240 2.8. And one of the questions is, do you use the 1240 also, Ben?
I've used the 12 to 45 millimeter f4 Pro, so I haven't used the 2.8 version. But because I have the 8 to 25 and then 40 to 150, that was the reason why I could remove one lens. That meant I could save more weight. So if we go back to the 7 to 14, if I were to use the 7 to 14, I miss a range in between, and then I would use the 12 to 45 or the 12 to 40 to match up with my telephoto lens.
Okay. When focus stacking with the OM5, how does you set the focus differential between 1 and 10?
You normally use it at 4. I find that 4 and 5 is always the sweet spot for landscape. Also depends on what your aperture is going to be with the image as well. But when you shoot for landscapes, you shoot on higher apertures. So you'll be shooting 5.6, f8. So you'll need less images to stack. If I was to use, 2.8 to really get macro shots, then probably potentially might be lower the number. But for landscape, I'll just keep it between 4 and 5 because I don't need as many images to focus stack. Normally, I'll shoot probably 5 images. You can set how many images you want to focus stack through. And then for f5.6, depending how close I am to the image, I set it at 5 images. So I focus on the foreground, and then it takes 5 images from there on. And then it focuses more into the distance. And I generally find out that I have 3 shots, or even 2, because of the depth of field being so good in the Micro Four Thirds, is that I need less images to focus stack.
Oh, okay, that's good. Do you have flares or noticed flares with the 7 to 14?
I haven't used that lens that much, so I can't comment on that. But Richard did mention that they had some flaring issues with that. I wouldn't really consider that lens to be the perfect landscape photography lens. I would use it for astro and that type of things. So it's a different field. But then again, you have the lens hood as well, which can help with the lens flare. Or you use your hand if you really want to use the lens. You just use your hands to catch the flare away, and it does help. Or if you're shooting into an image with a sunset and there's a lot of flare, you'll need a tripod for this. It's a bit hard without a tripod. I have done it before. So if you set on a tripod, you have your image and there's a lot of flare, you just put your finger on top of the sun in the image, and then it removes all the flare, and then you just combine those 2 images together. So you just paint away the flare because you took a photo with your finger. Don't forget to remove the finger, because otherwise it'll be
there. Okay. How do you decide when to use the OM5 Mark II and the OM3?
Oh, that's a good question. I would use always the OM5 Mark II for longer distances if I know I'm going to be out for multiple days in the hills, because the extra weight saving is very important. The OM5 III obviously has the live G&D, which I do miss the OM5 Mark II sometimes, and I'm sure it will come into the next version, hopefully. And then the OM3, I'm a bit of a geek as well, like hippie. So I like to have a retro style body as well. And I like to do street photography and travel. So that OM3 camera would be perfect for all round. It can do everything as well. But for purely weight saving, the OM5 Mark II would always win.
Do you use physical filters or something like a polarization? Or
I do carry a polarizer because it does remove a lot of flare out of the landscape. Not always particular, but it's just one of those things you can't do in Lightroom or editing to remove flare, or it also sometimes brings better contrast, better colors. So maybe, in body life, polarizer in the future in the camera. That would be perfect.
We can dream. We can dream.
Yes. What ISO do you use? I think you already answered in the settings. Do you remember?
Which one, sorry?
What ISO do you use?
ISO, always 200. Always base ISO, and then if I need to crank it up for low light, I'm comfortably cracking it up. And noise has never been any issue. And also in the mountains, there's no light after sunset. There's no street lights, or so once it's dark, I don't shoot anymore. So most of the time, ISO 200 to 1600 is enough for me.
Okay. Do you use the lens function button? I think the only lens you have with the lens function button is the 40-150. Do you use it?
It's on the 8-25 as well. Length function.
Okay.
I would like to say I use it, but I don't. I know that feature is there, but I think because of the nature of where I am in the landscape, I do find that I sometimes press it by accident because I have a glove on, and I'll be like in the wind, high winds. So I can press it by accident. So actually, I turned it off, but I do use it sometimes for street photography to change my tone curve.
Okay. Good idea. Yes.
So
where is your focus? Okay. Where is your focus point to get crisp focus from foreground to background?
I would I would like to say that I would know the physics behind it, because there is a physics behind where you would need to focus to get the maximum depth of field across the whole image. I don't want to think about that. I just focus on the furthest distant mountain, and generally everything is sharp with f8. I don't think about where I need to focus. If I do focus stack, obviously you need to start from the closest subject in your frame, and then it takes images further and further, because if you start from the almost infinity, it will just keep focusing infinity, so everything will just be blurry. But generally I just focus on the main subject, which would be a mountain peak or just the weather itself. So for me, yeah, that's what I like about the Micro Four Thirds, because the depth of field is so great. You don't have to think about that.
Okay. At the OM3, you have the 4 different custom mode setting possibilities, and at the OM5, there is just one on the dial. But do you just use the one on the dial because you have more possibilities inside the camera and set it on a button? Do you use it, or you just, how do you
I do
act
actually
with
use
the
it, because
custom modes?
even with the OM5 Mark II, you can change obviously white balance, contrast and saturation, and you can also change the tone curve as well within the camera. So while I'm taking a photo, sometimes just in general, like if something is too dark in the foreground and I would like to see how it looks in the camera in one image, I just increase the shadow in the tone curve so I can actually see more detail within the image. Now, it doesn't change the dynamic range, it just changes what's in the JPEG itself, but it's incredible to get almost an end result within a JPEG. And then once you bring it to Lightroom, the raw image, obviously you can do whatever you want, but to having that like the tone curve in it is actually really useful.
Okay, so now we have the last question. Can you focus deck with handheld shots? I've always been afraid to try without a tripod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you totally can. Like I said, I don't use any tripods, red crops. So everything you see from my images is all handheld. And a lot of the times there will be, rocks being really close to the foreground, which can't be photographed in a single image. Then I use focus stacking, and the focus stacking is so fast, you don't even notice it. So when you use obviously the embodied stabilization, it's so fixated anyway on that subject that even slight movements, it doesn't matter. And when you go into Photoshop to merge the focus stack, it automatically aligns them. Now, the only issue is when you have a wide angle view, there's more shakiness potentially happen, but I never had that issue. So I would say that just focus that, just do it. It goes so quickly when you do it. And only tip I would say is that just take a slight step back or move the camera slightly back, because once you focus that, it crops in slightly in the image. So you always have to think about that as well, because sometimes I came home with a focus stack and everything was too close because I didn't take a step back.
Brilliant.
So this was the last question, Richard.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the questions. Hopefully you've got all the answers you need out of them. Thank you for obviously participating in the live show as well. And hopefully, again, you've learned a lot. You feel inspired to go out and go up those mountains, take all the pictures. Maybe you'll even see Ben up some of them if you're nearby, potentially. Big thank you to Fanny for always looking after the questions and looking after me half the time and doing what you do. Thank you for getting here on time. That's amazing. Thank you very much. And obviously a big thank you to Ben. Obviously your pictures are stunning. They're amazing. What you do and your philosophy, which I wish we had time to get around to talking to more about your philosophy. I know you can talk philosophy for hours anyway. Yeah. But hopefully next time we'll kind of get more in depth on that front as well. That'd be great. But again, a big thank you for you for joining our session and teaching everyone how you do it. That's really important.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And It's always scary to do that first focus stack and stuff, but just do it. Take the time, have patience, and learn on the way. That's how it is. And if there's any questions that people want to know about focus stacking, exposure bracketing, Lightroom, people can always go to my website, which is just mountainlandscape.uk, and you can just ask me all questions related to OM system, cameras, and all the functions. So if you need some help, I'll be here.
Brilliant, brilliant. And lastly, obviously, thank you to all the viewers once again. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure you put anything you want to ask later on in the comments when this is over. And yeah, thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.